Contrary to what some Ohio State fans believe, Ryan Day is still a great coach.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a hump day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Wednesday, October 16th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, Noah Eagle of NBC Sports is joining us to talk about what he learned and witnessed in Austin Stadium on Saturday night in the top three showdown between Oregon and Ohio State. Ryan Day is still a great coach in my eyes, and I'm curious to hear if Noah Eagle believes the same thing. And today's conversation was going to be one where we were supposed to be rejoicing with Noah Eagle of NBC Sports about Ohio State's win. That was the original plan when I emailed him. Unfortunately, we're talking about a loss that Ohio State had to Oregon, as Noah Eagle was there on the call, did a great job with it. Noah, thanks for coming back to Locked On Buckeyes here in 2024.
Thanks for having me on, Jay. Appreciate it. And we'll see what we can break down and see what we can explain a couple days after this one.
You know, it's a couple days after, and I currently feel a lot better about Ohio State's performance than I did that evening. I was not happy about it at all. It really was one where I thought Ohio State had opportunities to win. Even in the final seconds of the game, they had that. But I think the bigger picture for me, as I look at Ryan Day, the coach, and what he has done, he's done great things. His win-loss record may be the best since he entered the coaching realm as a head coach at Ohio State. He's still a great coach. You're going to win some. You're going to lose some. I was recently thinking about Saban. He's lost some games where you're like, he shouldn't lose that. But it happens. And going on the road in Austin Stadium, that cross-country trip, he lost. That doesn't take away the fact that Ryan Day is still a great coach.
Yeah, he lost by 1 point. And
Right.
I think that there's perspective in that. They had themselves in position, it felt like, to potentially kick the game-winning field goal, and then the offensive pass interference with Jeremiah Smith kind of puts them out of that range. And you can look back on that play and easily argue that it could have gone the other way. I think that's the case with just about every game. You know, you've got the freak squib / onside kick that is a 1 in a million play. There's a lot of that over the course of the game. And this game especially felt like it had even more than what we are typical of seeing in a Big Ten game, or really just a Power 4 college football game. You mentioned the travel across the country. I mean, basically nobody has won. Penn State had to eke out a victory in LA. And the game that I did week 3 was actually Indiana at UCLA. That, up until last week, had been the only Big Ten team to win crossing multiple time zones. So it's been a legitimate challenge for everybody in the conference. And I think you're right. It's the 4th loss in Ryan Day's career in the Big Ten. And it's the first time that you've got this new iteration of the Big Ten. He's going to figure it out. And to be honest, you look at the difference of last year versus this year. Last year, you know, they eke out the win against Notre Dame, obviously run the table until that game against Michigan. It's almost, the way I view it, it feels like it's almost better to get this experience out of the way now in the middle of the season. They're more than talented. I had a number of Ohio State fans text me after the game, frustrated, I think naturally so and understandably so. And I just said to all of them, the Buckeyes are going to be fine, you know, especially with this new 12-team playoff. One, you're giving yourself a position. All you've got to do now is take care of your business. And I think that you look at their schedule, you know, Penn State's going to be a challenge, but overall, they're all winnable. And for this team, every game is winnable. So you kind of shore up some of the mistakes that maybe you made in this game. I think Will Howard gets more and more comfortable. He's played well overall this season. He's been one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the country. He's taking care of the football. He's using his legs well. You've got the best 1-2 punch in the backfield. You probably have the best receiving core in the country. They have all the pieces. Obviously, defensively, we know what they're capable of. But this is a great learning experience. They hadn't been in a close game up until this point. And so now you have that experience together. You can move forward with it. And the games that matter are going to be against Michigan and then potentially into the Big Ten championship. And if you get Oregon again and you have a chance on that second crack and a chance now at that first round bye in the college football playoff, you're ready for it. You've seen what you're up against.
You know, you talk about Will Howard, and I think that's one area that people have focused on. Chip Kelly, offensive coordinator, Ryan Day overseeing the entire program. Ryan Day is still there. We have
Sure.
seen Ryan Day work with guys with McCord last year and with Stroud and other quarterbacks. The more Ryan Day gets working with a guy, they're going to get better. And I said in the offseason that Will Howard was going to have a career year at Ohio State. I didn't
Yeah.
know how it was going to look like, what it's going to look like, but I kind of believed Ryan Day's experience as a head coach, leading this team, leading this unit, was going to help Will Howard out immensely. And that showed up in a big way in Eugene, Oregon. It was a crazy crowd. I mean, you were there. That crowd was insane as we were watching it. Will Howard seemed like he was ready for the moment. And I got to give credit to not only Ryan Day, but also Chip Kelly for coaching him up and getting him ready for that big time test.
Look, this is a guy who has played a lot of football. He has heard loud atmospheres before. He played at Texas. That's going to be one of the loudest in the entire country. So he's accustomed to that. He played in a Big 12 championship game. He's accustomed to that. But I think you're right. There's experience, and then there's pairing experience with excellent coaching. And the Chip Kelly Ryan Day combination, to me, is going to be lethal down the stretch. That's the difference realistically. You can talk about the Jim Knowles defense and how year 3 they're playing faster and everybody's more comfortable, and obviously they return as much as they do. They should be extremely comfortable. But the Will Howard continued comfort with the rest of the offense and then within Chip Kelly's system. And Chip has really simplified a lot of stuff. That the CLC stuff is fascinating. I know they've talked about it a lot and how he's just made it easy for everybody to understand exactly what they should be looking at, exactly where their options are within a play or within a scheme. But yeah, I'm curious to see the continued development because I do think I asked Ryan about the similarities and the situations from when he first took over as the full-time head coach and his quarterback was a transfer and Justin Fields. Because the last two you mentioned, CJ and Kyle, were guys who had been there, were guys who at least a year watched and viewed how it went in Columbus. Versus Justin was a guy who had been somewhere else, came in, and was a big body. He said the experiences are both similar and different. They're both willing and able runners. Now, Justin a little bit more than Will. He said Will's more of an accurate passer, but Justin had a bigger arm. And so you take what you have and you kind of take the bits and pieces and see what you can mix in by yourself to, as you said, continue to make those guys better. And I think we saw Justin take major strides, obviously, in his time at Ohio State. And I think we'll see Will continue to do that over the course of this season. He did say the other thing that's different, though, and it's a little bit easier on the plug and play, is Will's obviously a lot older than Justin was. I mean, Justin was still a kid, and Will's a grown man, 23-year-old dude who's coming in and, again, has played a lot of snaps. The last part of all of this that I'll say is, from what we heard and what Chip had mentioned, is in the springtime, I guess Will was really playing. It was more catch up.
Yeah.
And they were saying, okay, what's this really going to look like? And he came back day 1 of fall camp.
Yeah.
And it was like night and day. And Chip goes, okay, so this guy does his homework every day. He studies. He tries to find areas that he can improve. And he was very honest with us about that. He knew the NFL was an option for him, but he didn't love what he heard. And so he knew this was the best opportunity for him, not only to win a national championship, but to improve as a player and as a person. And he's already done that.
We're going to continue with Noah Eagle here talking about the Ohio State-Oregon game and kind of some lessons we can learn and take away from the game that Ohio State lost by 1 point. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time is a one-stop shop. You go there, you find an easy route to find tickets that fit exactly what you're looking for. They got all-in pricing as well. They got that panoramic view from your seat before you buy. They provide the lowest price guarantee, and they got that Game Time ticket coverage, and all of it allows you to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and it happens with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So, Noah, we could talk all day about Will Howard, talk all day about Ryan Day. There's a lot of frustration by Buckeye fans with the defense right now people are going back and looking at losses and saying Jim Knowles' defenses give up X amount of yards in these games. And there's even people talking about the lack of punts in some of these big games as well. The defense lost a game. I mean, the team lost a game. There were some defensive issues and mistakes. There were also some issues on offense as well. So it wasn't like one side played way better mistake-free football over the other, but the defense did make some mistakes. Did you sense throughout the game that Ohio State was going to be able to overcome some of those defensive mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, there were moments where it felt that way. This is a game that had 7 lead changes, so I don't think we ever
Yeah.
had a full pulse of, okay, one thing's going to happen or another. Here's what I'll say about the defensive stuff. A couple things. One, Oregon's offense is widely known as one of the more explosive offenses in the country. And I know they didn't look like it maybe in the first 2 weeks of the season, but even Ryan Day said to us, he's like, look, because I said, well, how much of that early tape are you watching? He goes, basically none, because it's a different team. I mean, their offensive line was completely different. After the first 2 games, they shuffled it around entirely. And it was an offensive line that was one of the best in the country. They were a Joe Moore Award finalist last year. They lost the Remington Award winner at center, but they returned 3 starters on that offensive line. And then the kid they have at center is actually a Hawaiian kid with a great rapport with Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback. And so already they're not your typical Pac-12 quote unquote team. They're physical, they're tough, they're going to get in the trenches, and then they can still take the top off the defense. And Tez Johnson is an outstanding slot receiver. Terrence Ferguson, I think, is one of the better and more underrated tight ends in the country. And then Evan Stewart had a career day, but that's a guy who was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. So it's not like he completely came out of nowhere. And then you don't even mention the fact that Jordan James has been running the ball as effectively
Yes, he
as
has.
anybody since the offensive line changes. So it's an offense with similarly an experience, in fact, the most experienced quarterback in college football who's playing well. And they had been playing well coming into the game. So I don't look at it and say, okay, Ohio State got gashed by some random team. They got gashed by, at times, a really good offense. At the same time, they did play well at times. There were moments where I think they looked like the unit we expected them
Correct.
to. And you mentioned some of the miscues from the offense that I think hurt them. One, the fumble by Quinshon Judkins that was just ripped away by Derek Harmon, a guy that has played a lot of Big Ten football. And then the squib onside kick. Those provide short field opportunities, and Oregon is going to capitalize on short field opportunities. I think the concern, and I'm sure this is where Buckeye fans' heads are at right now, the concern is when you needed the stops the most in the fourth quarter, you didn't get them. And again, it's a team that hadn't played this year in a close game yet. The defense, you can say just about everybody was on the team last year. So they had played in some close games. But to me, it was a good experience now. It's year 3 of this system. You don't have a couple of those important pieces from last year, especially at linebacker. So it's the first real opportunity in a barn burner of a game down the stretch, top 5 matchup for this particular year's group to go out there and to really feel it and to learn it and to just continue to learn how to pull it out. So I would not be concerned. I think that top to bottom, all 3 levels, they're all Americans on this defense. It's very simple. And when you've got that level of talent, and from everything that we hear in all of our meetings, and, we met with a number of players on the team that basically said they're as united as ever because they all have that same goal of winning against Michigan and winning the national championship, winning the Big Ten. And they all came back for that specific reason. And I think you saw that with last year's champion, who I will not mention on this podcast, the name, just because, I know how that goes. But it does feel similar in some respects of how many guys decided to come back because they hadn't felt it yet. And they knew that they were 1 step away or 2 steps away, whatever. They're still right there. And again, I think having this moment now, 7 weeks into the season, as opposed to 15 weeks into the season,
Correct.
is a huge difference.
How do you think the loss or potential loss of Josh Simmons is going to impact the offensive line?
Yeah, look, there was an offensive group that those 5 in particular had been playing so exceptionally
Yeah.
well together. And so when you take one piece away, especially a piece who had been as impactful, I would say, as him, I mean, we even just saw when Donovan Jackson came back, they were stronger. They're running
Yes.
the ball even better. The
Yes.
pass protections even better. Will Howard's running ability improved. So they're deep at the position. They've got talent. I mean, Ohio State is going to bring in a lot of guys, but it was a dude who was playing about as well as anybody up front. So if you have a loss, and if it's a loss that is what it looks like, potentially serious and long term, you've got to figure some stuff out. But that's what this group is made of. I think they have that kind of mentality of, okay, we've got next man up, and just about everybody knows what's at stake, and they know that they've got to step up. So whoever assumes the position long term, should it be that, I think we'll be ready to go.
Noah, when you're on shows, and I've listened to some interviews you've done and lots of with your dad as well, people always bring up your dad when you're on a show, or they bring up you when your dad's on a show. So I feel kind of stupid if I didn't bring up Jeremiah Smith. We've been talking about him all offseason. We kind of got to bring up number 4. He is, some call him an alien. I call him unreal. I've never seen a freshman receiver like this ever in my
Yeah.
lifetime. What was it like calling that matchup with him on the field?
Yeah, I think anytime you've got a talent like that, and I mean, we felt this way with Marvin last year. Anytime you have a talent like that, you just know you're a part of something special. You're a part of that journey in some way. And Jeremiah, it's clear as day. And we feel incredibly strong about Emeka Ibuka and
Yeah.
the type of career he's going to have at the next level. And yet, Jeremiah Smith is taking a lot of that spotlight, and understandably so. This is a guy that has every skill set. His routes are crisp. He is already so advanced. And the thing that stood out, and I know we talked about it during the broadcast, you look at all those previous guys: Marvin, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, the string of first round receivers that we've had. You look at all of them and you say, okay, what did all of them do as a true freshman? Well, they didn't see the field.
Right.
And you could make the argument, okay, they had guys in front of them. So is this guy. I mean, Carnell Tate last year, I remember they were raving about. And even Chip Kelly still says Carnell Tate's going to be an NFL player. He's a good enough receiver to be in the NFL when his career is done. And I wholeheartedly believe that. The difference with this guy is he came in day one physically ready to be not just a Big Ten receiver, to be a college football star today. I still think, just seeing him up close, if you were allowed to draft freshmen, he'd be a first round pick now. And so, and same with Ryan Williams at Alabama. I mean, the two of them, to your point, alien is probably the right word. But with Jeremiah in particular, and I know Todd brought it up on the broadcast about the Athletic article that was written about him as a kid getting cut from the team when he was about 7 years old, and how that set everything else in motion for the rest of his life, and how he had retooled his mind and his body. And by the time he got to Ohio State this year, as a true freshman, before he even started classes, he's winning the weight room battles. He's winning the competitions over juniors, seniors, 5th year, 6th year, 7th year guys. That's not normal in any stretch of the word. So getting a chance to see him up close was really cool. And I'm just excited to see how his career continues to progress in Columbus.
You also got a chance to see a backfield of Henderson, Treveyon Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins. Now, there was a different gap between the total yards between Henderson and Judkins, which is not normal. But you got to see them on Saturday and see how they performed, to see how they kind of meshed and gelled in that environment. Do you expect those two guys to still kind of be neck and neck the rest of the year as far as yards and carries go?
I do. I just think that Ryan Day is really valuing, and he says that those two guys are really valuing having them fresh when it matters most. I think in years past, while there was depth at the position, last year some injuries got in the way, and maybe years past similarly, but you felt like there was one main guy still. And there was clearly, Treveyon was maybe a step above Mayan Williams, Chip Trainum, or whoever else. This year, while Treveyon clearly, I thought, played better this past weekend in Eugene, and I know Quinshon had the touchdown, but Treveyon showcased the home run speed, showcased that big playability, showcased the patience and the vision, and all of what we know he's capable of anytime he has the football in his hands. While I think he played better then, I just think that they're a little bit more even in their skill set. I think they're both exceptional football players, exceptional at the position. And I do think that there's something to be said about having two guys who can split the load, and that they're fresh both in the fourth quarter each game, or if you don't even need to play them most fourth quarters, down the stretch in the season. There is a huge advantage to having that. And I think that's what they're looking for. So as a result, yeah, I do believe that they're going to split a lot of the carries. I think they'll split the workload. And I do think it's going to be beneficial for this team, no different than having both Abuka and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, and having G. Scott now look like he's taking
Yeah.
a step forward at that tight end spot. Having a little bit more balance, it just helps everybody out. So I look forward to both of them because I really enjoy both of their play styles. I really enjoy what they bring to the table. And it does seem like they've enjoyed playing alongside one another instead of really having to shoulder the load.
One of the things Noah Eagle gets to do throughout the year is visit different Big Ten stadiums and kind of gets to experience various atmospheres week after week after week. Where does Ohio State stack up? Ohio Stadium stack up in the way that Noah Eagle kind of views Ohio Stadium versus Austin Stadium or Beaver Stadium and things like that? Well, he'll tell you next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All the action goes down on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. That's not a will tell you. That's a he'll tell you because Noah Eagle's a guy that gets to be in that lucky seat every single Saturday night on NBC. I got to say, before I get any further, that broadcast is amazing. Not just
Thanks.
you and Todd and Catherine Tappan, but also just everybody behind the scenes. It's very much almost like an NFL feel, the way that the broadcast goes. So I gotta get that out of the way. Like, you guys do a great job, from you guys on air to everybody behind the scenes, do a great job covering the Big Ten.
Thank you, man. No, I think that is kind of the goal from our production side, and Matt Marvin, our producer, Charlie Denmeyer, director. They definitely work hard. They come from that NFL tree, and so I think the Sunday Night Football template is kind of what they're after. And we've really enjoyed covering all these games, but the stadium part is awesome, and that's what makes college football special. Is you have these environments that you just can't quite get anywhere
No.
else. The passion is at a different level. If the fan bases are at a different level, and the stakes that you feel every time you walk into one of them is awesome. And so Ohio Stadium, I mean, the shoe is top tier. To me, it's all about tiers. And I think that it is in the same tier with all of the top, and Autzen has to be in there. I'd never been there up until last week, and it blew me away. It really did. Facilities were amazing. And as we were discussing before we started, it was remarkable to me how much noise those fans could make when they are only 60,000 as opposed to 100, 110,000. Because obviously, when you have 110,000 fans, it's going to be loud. It's going to be loud. But 60,000 fans making that level of noise. And, I went to Syracuse. The dome, which was the Carrier Dome forever, now the JMA Wireless Dome, is called the Loud House. And you get about, for a football game, I think you can get close to 60,000 in there. For a basketball game, they set on-campus records every year, about 35,000. And a basketball game is crazy loud. But a football game, it's loud, but it's not that. And I'm like, how do the 60,000 there just get that much louder? And it's a credit to both fan bases, because there were a lot of Ohio State fans there. And honestly, Jay, that's been my favorite part about this season in particular, because it's so new with these 4 new teams. We've now done games at UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. So the only one we haven't done this year is USC. And all 3 of those games, all 3 road teams were very much represented. Indiana really showed up, and then Michigan took over maybe 30% of that stadium, and Ohio State had a large number of fans there. And I know maybe you wouldn't have seen it on TV or whatever. I can tell you, just being there, they had a large section, and then you saw a smattering of red around the entire stadium. And so I give credit to all of the fan bases for their willingness to go and travel through time zones and do everything else, because it makes for a better product.
Have you ever had anybody say anything crazy or off the wall while you're broadcasting a game? Maybe somebody sees, like, oh, it's that guy. He pissed me off one day. Has anybody ever tried to say anything like that to you in the middle of a game?
Not necessarily. The people will every now and then try to get attention, but the good news with football broadcasts is you're kind of removed
Yeah.
from the fans. I would say basketball, you're a lot closer. You're a lot more intimately involved. And it depends, when I was doing radio in the NBA, there are some radio locations that you're literally immersed in the crowd. And so they can do whatever they want. As far as I'm concerned, they're paying their tickets. They're part of the game. That's part of the deal. So I'm all for that. As long as it's within reason and doesn't cross the line, then of course you've got to make sure you're just handling everything the right way. But no, I love interactions with the fans. And every now and then you will see fans on the road and they maybe will stop you or whatever it might be. I love all that stuff. So if you do see us, come say what's up.
The atmospheres is one thing that drew me into being a college football fan when I was younger. My parents we're big pro family. We live in Indianapolis, used to. So it was always the Colts, so it was always the Pacers, and you got Peyton Manning and Reggie Miller. So that was what got me when I was a kid to be a big time sports fan. Then all of a sudden I become an Ohio State fan and I see 100,000 people. I see a massive stadium, a very unique structure, and I'm thinking, oh, this is different. And then when I actually got to Columbus for my first game, I'm like, oh, this is way better than anybody ever described. What's something that stuck out to you from your time visiting the shoe the first time?
Man, I think what sticks out to me about Ohio State, period, is that passion. I think that Ohio State might have the most passion of any school that I've been to. It is really impressive, and especially for, and this was something that struck me. We talked to Seth McLaughlin, and he's from, Alabama originally. He's from the South. And he was like, I never realized that Columbus is a big city. And I'm like, yeah, no, Columbus is a legitimately big city. It's a very real city. So you just, with those types of schools, you never know, because the college towns where that's all they have, totally understand. But when you have some pro sports teams and you've got other stuff going on, you just don't know. And the fan base is next level. The passion behind the Ohio State fan base is next level. They live, sleep, eat, breathe, everything for their Buckeyes. And that's what it should be. And so that stands out to me every time I go there, whether it's for basketball or football. The basketball environment, the game I did last year was against, what was it, Texas A&M. It was fun. And honestly, they were into it. That stands out to me. And so the football is a different level of that. And the shoe is, it's unique, obviously, in its shape and in kind of its building and makeup, but the passion definitely stands out, which is exactly what you look for in any of these.
Noah, what are your last comments about Ohio State in this season from what you witnessed from them on Saturday?
That they're going to be just fine. Exactly what I told everybody after the game. I am not concerned. If anything, I think this was a great thing for them moving forward. I look at what they have. I look at what this team is capable of at full strength. And to me, that if they are playing at their very best, they are the best. I think they are top to bottom the most complete team in college football. And when you've got the most complete team in college football with a great coaching staff, good things generally follow. I do think that we'll see against Penn State exactly what they have learned and taken away from this game. But when I look at what they're capable of, the sky is the limit. The ceiling is the roof, if you want to quote Michael Jordan on it. I really like what I see out of Ohio State this year. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how they bounce back from a tough loss like this, because that's more than half the battle, as well as how you do handle quote unquote adversity over the course of the season. And this is their first look at exactly that. So I'm looking forward to just following them the rest of the year, because I really do believe that this could be a very special year and this could be just a minor speed bump in the way.
I really appreciate Noah Eagle coming on the show for the first time in 2024. Hopefully, we can get him back again down the road. You can follow him on Twitter at Noah Eagle 15. You can follow me on the same platform at JStevens07. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Wednesday. We'll see you next time.